And start whenever you're ready.
Hi, I'm Jeffrey Nowlin, and I am an artist, sculptor, teacher, um, maker. I like to say that.
That's a good
Thanks for
title. I like
having
that one.
me.
Thanks for joining me virtually. It's been I went to see your show over at the Piano and Craft Gallery. What was that? How many months ago?
October.
October. It was a while ago now. But that's when we first met, and you were on the board of the gallery, and as am I. But I'm a bad board member and didn't go to our last meeting. But whatever, we'll just talk about that later. But I am glad to connect with you in this way and to start like our relationship, our friendship. I would say it's gonna grow. I'm already convinced it's gonna grow, Jeffrey. I'm putting it out there on the record, so you can't like deny that I didn't say that it was gonna happen.
Oh no, I totally get that. I like sensed friendly vibes coming off of you the first time we were in the same space, and it was nice. So
good. Yeah. So I am so happy to finally get to like chat with you in this way, and get to know you this way. So we like to start our interviews with the first question: are you hood grown, and if so, how does that influence your aesthetic?
Well, I'm not. I am originally from Connecticut, like a suburb about 20 minutes outside of Hartford, called Southington. And I guess, in a way that so it's very like homogenous, very white, very Catholic. So I felt, as my sister did and my family did, kind of outside of that. So I'd say in a way it did inform some of my sensibilities. I definitely turned inward, and it helped me expand my imagination and, get comfortable being with myself and doing things by myself creatively. But I, was fortunate. It was close to green space. So I'd say like natural forms definitely factor into what I'm attracted to, and they play a part in my work now. Yeah.
So we also want to hit on it's Pride Month. So happy Pride Month. And we know this is it's often celebrated that queer artists get, highlighted during this time. But we want to say that obviously this is not the only time queer artists should be, acknowledged, but it does, take a part in some of your influence as an artist as well, or does it take part in how your work has evolved, maybe your journey coming out? Has that come into your work at all?
I think so, yeah. Working in the arts, it was an outlet for those things that I felt were not able to be spoken about openly, for a good part of my life. I'm only 32, but I felt very alone a lot of the time, and so being able to express myself in a visual way was such an outlet, where other ways were curtailed, I think. Growing up, I'd say that I look to other artists, queer artists, as a inspiration or as mentors. They're working towards social change and visibility, owning that openly. It feels good to be part of that family tree, or find a place within that family. So and then conversations about the kind of work that I do too, like the heavy fiber work. I'd say there's a lot of like interesting discussion to be had about like being a queer person using that type of material, because there is a long history, I'd say, with artists and intersectionality in that way, that there's use of fiber work as a way of mode of expression. So yeah.
Oh, yeah, we'll get into that a little bit more when we talk about your work specifically. But before we get into your actual art making, how are you transitioning to this reopening of, the state, as a person, as an artist? How do you feel about, I before I was asking folks how are they coping with it being inside, and now I'm like, what's the transition for you?
It's that's complicated, as is for everyone.
Mhm.
I like worked in a customer facing setting throughout. I worked with students in an institution, a higher education institution. So all of those places handled it differently. And I some people were able to really isolate for better or worse, and so their experience is very different. I've always felt like kind of just right in front of this thing and like having to interact with it. And so in that way, things don't feel too different for me. It's been weird seeing people's lower faces for the
Yeah.
first time. All those pretty masks are kind of going away
Mhm.
now. And actually, I went to Philadelphia with my partner a little bit ago, so that whole experience, it is much bigger there, and people were not wearing masks on the street, which at that point in time it was in accordance with guidelines and everything. But compared to here, just a few weeks ago, it was like even outdoors by yourself, you would see
Yeah.
people wearing masks and stuff. But I'm excited. I'm excited to, get to a sort of sense of normalcy, even though it's not. I know it's not.
Mhm.
And I guess kind of just recover from things. It's been a really hard year. And you as a teacher, I'm sure you understand
Yeah.
too. Gosh.
Yeah. It's been a journey this year. A very it's just been an uphill battle, and now we're at the top of the hill, and hopefully next year it's nice, hopefully. But I think we're gonna be working up another hill because there's been a lot of loss, a lot of learning loss,
Yeah.
unfortunately, over
Yeah.
this, which is, yeah, heavy, but we'll have to make it through. But let's talk more about your art now.
All right.
Let's get into the good stuff. So how did you get into fiber art and sculpture? I was reading your bio, and it seems like you transitioned from painting, printmaking, ceramics, collage kind of land, and now you're kind of like in fiber worlds, and like and I love it. But how did it become like your main? It's like your main thing now. Like it's your main girl. Like
That I mean, so the bio is a little it like that's I'm looking at it from, okay, what was I doing in maybe like undergrad or something, where they're trying to
Mhm.
put together this, professional like facing person on the internet or whatever. But I've been in fibers my whole life. I
Mm.
got a I got a box of um, scarves when I was in kindergarten. My one of my aunties, she got me a box of scarves from the thrift store, and it was my favorite present that year. I was so excited. I brought them to school with me for show and tell. I played with them. I have them in pieces of work that I've made, in the past like decade, because I
Mhm.
kept them for so long. So, my attraction to material and just textures of materials has been there for a long time. You
Mhm.
could probably had a very good career as like a ribbon dancer at some point. But like I was introduced to sewing by my mom. She sewed, she did cross stitch. I was making a lot of costumes for my dolls when I was little.
Mhm.
And I was like, okay, I have to read up on like historically accurate costumes for my period set dolls. And so I would like go to the library and pour over books and, you know, try and recreate those different outfits.
Mhm.
So like fibers and making and using my hands to like express what was going inside and what I was interested in it's been there for a long time. And then I guess I applied it to fine arts. You know, in undergrad, I started doing quilting and doing soft sculpture, in, you know, just working with cast off clothes because it was cheap and available. And then, yeah, it really exploded when I was in grad school. And I had the opportunity to take a weaving class, which helped develop my language and forms and applications so much more with fibers. So, yeah.
So what kind of forms are you drawn to, and what kinds of feelings are you trying to evoke from these forms? Because when I saw your show at the Piano and Craft Gallery, all the work felt different, but at the same time, there was clearly a relationship between all of them. The materials were so specific to each. The forms were so specific to each, but there still was a relationship that you could feel among them all. But yeah, like what are you drawn to, and how does that kind of inspire what you create?
You know, I am looking to, I guess, talk about narrative a lot of the time. Like a lot of that work in the gallery was that was, you know, my interpretation of events from my life, or sort of a collective, like a collage of different experiences coming together. So I guess with the forms that I'm making, they're trying to like get a wide variety of different either feelings through texture or color, um, markers, whether it's like signs or, you know, sort of recognizable signs or attributes, things that relate to popular culture sometimes, but they can also be really specific too. So it's like maximum capacity as much as I can fit in there. I think the nature of the materials that I'm using tend to, you know, they produce a lot of these curvilinear forms. There's sort of wrapping and winding. And so that complexity to me like talks about the complexity of those narratives sometimes, and the sort of interlinking of these different experiences, like what causes what, how are these different aspects of a person's life, or health or well-being kind of connected to each other. Yeah, like maximum overload, I think, because I want people to like, you know, get charged, you know, with different senses, as many as possible when they're looking at my work.
Yeah, there's definitely a feeling of that, or like something kind of wanting to break free. Like there's something, you're containing it, and it's like almost wanting to kind of like not explode, but like there is kind of like a kind of want to expand. And it is like the amount of materials you're using, and like you're saying, so can you talk about your relationship to materials a little bit more? Like what are you drawn to, how do you collect materials, and then how do you decide to manipulate those materials you start collecting?
Yeah, I'm always on the lookout for materials. I think a lot of artists are, but
Yeah, we're all hoarders at heart.
right.
And our partners have to deal with that.
Yeah, yeah. it is a constant struggle, but you feel vindicated when like you hold on to something for
Mhm.
years and
Like,
then
see, I
it
used it.
fits.
I told you I would.
Yeah, so those moments, like those moments where it's like this fits perfectly, is at that point, okay, I'm keeping this for that reason, and I'm always looking for that, perfect scrap or that donated article of clothing. I think the clothing itself is meaningful because it does have to deal with the body, and a lot of the work that I do, like going back to that sense of breaking out, that sort of containing the inside outside that's happening with the work that I do, or like I'd like to think is happening, has to do with like the presentation of self, the inner workings of the mind, the inner workings of the body. I mean, these works do have to speak to like physical and mental trauma. And so to sort of express that through the use of an outside piece of clothing that may have remnants of the body form to it, I think is a great mechanism with using, salvage clothing. Um, and then like any other objects that I'm finding, I've been on a quest to expand some of my material toolbox. So um, I'm making a commitment to really collect like materials I can upcycle. So working at a, chain grocery store, there's actually a lot of stuff I can salvage from there. That comes in like pretty colors and like fun and useful textures and workability. So I can find a lot of weaving materials. I can find things that I can just
Yeah, like things that they wrap vegetables in, like those
yeah.
must be like really cool colors. There's like usually, or like uh what you can find, whatchamacallit, like clementines in those like kind of
The
like,
netting.
yeah, netting.
Yeah.
That would be a good material. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm
It's
totally into upcycling. It's
it's
like always
so
a project for my students.
well, when you have very little money to buy supplies with,
Mhm.
that stuff becomes so valuable. And I like to I communicate to my students that you may not have a space to work in immediately after school. You may not have all of the funds that you need to work with immediately after school. So what are you going to do if you still need to make that artwork to survive, to just really be yourself? And you grab what's around you and you figure out how to work with it. So like cardboard as an armature base, scrap wire as an armature base, old t-shirts that maybe have meaning for you still or don't have any meaning for you, like figure out how to apply it to your work and carry through that metaphor for yourself. Utilizing what's at your workplace, so that you don't have to go out and spend money from your paycheck for that. So
Right.
these are all like, there's practical aspects to how I'm collecting. There's obviously, formal aspects to color choices that
Mhm.
help tie my work together.
Yeah, it's like you know exactly how to segue my next question. How would you describe your color palette? What inspires the moods you're creating through your sculptures?
Uh,
Everyone knows that you have the questions in front of you. It's fine. It's fine. But I appreciate the segue. It's nice. It's nice.
the magic. Yeah, this is the colors. I like to think I do have a triad like of colors, like yellow, red, and black. I find come into the work. They've like for the past decade, I'd say they always find themselves in the work. I don't know why, but I am not afraid to use color. If anyone's seen my work, you can see that. It evokes so much for me, just as a person. And um, it's it's a whole language in and of itself. And then the way that is expanded upon when you juxtapose colors together, it, I think, adds a really explosive element to the work too. And tying it together, because the materials that I'm, putting together can be so diverse. Sometimes the only thing to unify them is with color. So that's an important tool for me, just in thinking, collecting, and finalizing a piece, is like, how can I have things speak independently within the work, but how can I also unify it and transition well from one element to the next? So I lean heavily on color for that reason, I think. And it being loud, like it needs to be loud. I'm not a loud person by any means. I'm pretty quiet until you get to know me, but my work, I'd like to say, speaks, it's that other voice for me. So sometimes the louder the better, because I can't always say it for myself.
Yeah, that's what it is for a lot of artists. It is our way. It's our first language in a lot of ways. So why is being a part of an artist community important to you as a maker? Because it seems like that is something that is, a big part of you as an artist, and not being, a loud artist, that might be why you have a want or a need. I won't push, the answer on you, but this is my hypothesis. Maybe it is your, want to be supported, or being added to this community is really important, for whatever other reason for you. But yeah, what is that for you, and why do you find the need to connect with communities?
I'll go back, like growing up, a lot of encouragement. I was one of the fortunate people in this world to have encouragement from my family, immediate and larger spread, that like you can do what you need to do to be yourself, and to express yourself creatively. A lot of artists in the family. So
That's awesome.
having, yeah, it's been a real gift. And so to carry that forward, is sort of a duty, the encouragement that other artists can give to each other, the generosity and time or material or knowledge. It can really be the difference between, being successful and happy, and being really alone and unsure about what your next step is, or how to, do what you need to do. So finding a community of artists is really important, I think, for me anyways, because I need that encouragement, and I want to offer that encouragement where I can. The Piano Craft Gallery is a great example of that, is artists helping artists, and really leaning on the connections that you can create and rely upon to help, get your work out there. And, yeah.
And it's also like, clearly you have a teacher soul. So like, which is like, you have to just keep giving and giving and giving. And that's just how it is as a teacher. So I know you said like the bio might be a little outdated, but it does state that you investigate the form of the body, traumatic experience, and personal narrative in your sculptures, which I still feel like is very relevant to your work. How does your work as like a researcher, you do identify as a researcher as well as an artist in a lot of ways too, correct?
Yeah.
So, and how does your background influence your artwork?
Okay, so I'll take this piece by piece, I guess. Well, researcher, I love learning. I get really frustrated when I don't understand things. So I will go and try and figure it out. And until I don't feel frustrated anymore. But the world of research feels very, I don't know, wide open. And the more you know, right, that
Mhm.
it can't stop you. And I'd say like the trajectory that I've had as a student, and then I mean, thankfully going into teaching relatively quickly after finishing school, I need to keep learning. I need to keep researching. I need to keep up to date with what's going on. Uh, so and also, I'd say for me and many other artists, having a diverse sort of background of interests is important, because I can't just dream up things all the time. I need to like get a little bit of I don't know, I like get pushed around by facts and information, and so that drives a lot of what I do creatively. So putting in the time to research and learn is partly to continue my artistic practice, because it can get stale sometimes, and I worry that it will. And so, what other thing can I do, and what other thing do I love to do is, learn and research history and science, and that'll hopefully keep me going. And then um, let's see, uh, my background. I mean, so going back to that, small town in Connecticut, it wasn't really diverse, and um, it wasn't it wasn't permissible to be like different, and so when you're kind of made to feel like the walking embodiment of difference, uh, you you tend to seek out like things that are familiar or are different. So like reading about I had a real fascination with like indigenous people growing up. I don't really remember why, but like maybe one morning I woke up and just reading about different cultures, different belief sets. They opened up a world for me where there are possibilities that were outside of like what I was growing up in, the predominant culture, which was, limiting to say the least. And so that background again like led me to a way of looking at the world where you have to find it. You have to find a place for yourself and carve out a place for yourself. You're going to do that by like going to your library and reading, and you know just also like acknowledging that maybe you're a nerd. That's okay.
Yeah, no, it's totally okay. As a person that got a sociology degree along with their fine arts degree, I full-heartedly support the researcher aspect of you. I consider myself a researcher. Just, observing is a form of research. So I totally get it, and I totally want. I think it's, again, you have a teacher soul that you want to continue learning. That's like our job, right? We're not supposed to stay like static and be like, I know this amount and I'm good.
Right.
So it has been awesome talking with you, Jeffrey, and we're obviously gonna like talk off air, but let's just wrap up this interview. So what's next for you and your work?
Well, I will be working from home. I'm kind of taking a hiatus from
nice.
like school and work right now. I've got some personal stuff going on, but I'm just enjoying the summer, enjoying this kind of free time, and I'm gonna try and push myself though, like out of my comfort zone. I've been, for better or worse, I live like right next to my work because I don't have a working studio right now. So I see it every single day, and it's like, finish me, and and so like getting up real close and personal with it, I'm like, I gotta do something with you, and yeah, so like having that kind of extended conversation with it, and yeah, just finishing stuff. I'm always making and not like finishing, so finishing stuff.
Yeah,
but
sounds like a good summer, a finishing summer. That's good.
Yeah.
And where can people find you, but where do you want to be found more so? Not like location, obviously, we mean like socially.
Yeah. So I'm a little bit of a Luddite, I guess. You can find me on Instagram at jeffrey.nowlin, Nowlin. I'll put up stuff there occasionally. You can always go to my website too, which will need some updating, I guess, like some new work, like that's a goal. jeffreynowlinsculpture.com. And then the Piano Craft Gallery, you can please come and visit, and I'm hoping to be there, and whatever programming is happening, I will be there. And so yeah,
the doors are open. It's so exciting that like we could do things now. Like it felt like really nice to be like, oh, you're a board member to right during a time where we cannot open the gallery.
But you know what, for the limiting the restrictions anyways, I think it was pretty good.
Definitely. I think it was very successful and did what we could during this time for sure. But like, what a way to start.
Great.
Well, it's been great, speaking with you. You're awesome. And I'm glad we got to talk in this way. I'm gonna stop our recording here. And you've been awesome. Thanks.
Thank you.